My name's Cherry and I specialise in teaching pelvic floor exercises to older adults. I'd like, if I may, to spend a few seconds just talking about what the pelvic floor is and how exercising the pelvic floor can help us all. So the pelvic floor is very often described as a hammock or a sling going from the sacrum, at the bottom of the sacrum there's the coccyx, and going from that coccyx towards the inside of the pubic bone. And that is quite right. But I also want you to think about the pelvic floor in a different way. So this is not pleasant, can I show this to you? The coccyx, which we talked about, at the end of the sacrum, and the pubic bone at the front. And there's a lot of muscle attached from that coccyx to the pubic bone. But you can see the sitting bones here. And if I show you this is the deepest layer of pelvic floor muscles, and there are other muscles on top, but this is the deepest layer. And you can see there's connections to the coccyx, towards the inside of the sitting bones, and towards the pubic bone at the front. So it would really help me if you could think of the pelvic floor being a hammock or a sling from the coccyx to the pubic bone, but also think of it being this structure inside the pelvis that holds up and helps support our pelvic contents, our bladder, our bowel, in ladies maybe the uterus, and it also supports in gentlemen the prostate gland. So think of this structure and scaffolding of muscle that is going to hold things up. Now, unfortunately, there's many causes that will make our pelvic floor not function as well. Some of that might be being overweight, it might have been having babies. For gentlemen, it might be having an enlarged prostate gland or having to have prostate surgery. For ladies, you might have had a hysterectomy. But really, one of the biggest causes of pelvic floor dysfunction is age and gravity. It's a bit of a design fault because originally we were on all fours, so the pelvic floor in this position didn't have that much stress. And as we've learned to come upright, the pelvic floor is under a lot of stress. So really, if we have pelvic floor problems, a lot of it is not our fault. So, can I ask you if you find that sometimes if you cough or laugh, you sneeze, you maybe lift up something that's a little bit heavier, or even getting in and out of the chair, does sometimes you leak a little bit of urine? Do you maybe trump? And also it can affect how effective we are at keeping pooing as well. It's not just wee. Do any of you find that when you go to the toilet, you think you've finished having a wee and then you either wipe yourself or you get to come off the toilet and a little bit more wee comes out, like you've not finished having a wee? Gentlemen, do you find that you have a wee, you think you've finished, you dress yourself, you put it away, and then a couple of seconds later you get a little bit of a damp spot? Now, if you do get that, that's called dribble incontinence. I know that's not a nice term, but it is what it is. Do any of you find that you need a wee, but you can't get to the toilet in time and you maybe have an accident? Do any of you find, and this is something that I found as I got older, that I would get to the toilet and as I was starting to pull my pants down, I would find that I would struggle and a little bit of wee would come out? Well, pelvic floor exercises that we're going to do with you today can be done anywhere, anytime. Nobody needs to know you're doing them. You can do them every day. And these exercises, while they might not cure us, they can really help us considerably. So, I'm going to talk about the pelvic floor exercises, both in terms of males and females. Lots of them will all be able to do it exactly the same. We have 3 exits, ladies: our back passage, the vagina, and the urethra. And our pelvic floor muscles wrap around and are intrinsically linked with those 3 exits. Gentlemen, back passage, and at the front the urethra. So your exits between your legs are surrounded and helped by these pelvic floor muscles. So the NHS say that we should do 5 slow pelvic floor contractions and 5 quick ones 3 times a day. So up to 30 times a day. Now it sounds a lot, but you can split it up during the day. It's not that bad. And it is something that you can do daily. But it is also important that we allow the pelvic floor to rest and we don't overdo the pelvic floor exercises. Before we start the pelvic floor program, I want to share a couple of things with you. Is that the word continence in Latin means being able to hold back. So incontinence means we can't hold back. Do many of you guys find you have less control over your bladder and your bowels than you did when you were younger? So the exercises that we're going to do can help us to stay well and functioning in the pelvic floor department. So we might be able to hold our urine till we get to the toilet. We might be able to keep that trumping when we don't want to trump. Gentlemen, when you've finished having a wee, give yourself a second, take a deep breath in and see if you can wee a little bit more. There is something that you could ask your healthcare provider to have a look at, and it's called milking the testicles, which can help get that last little bit of urine out. Ladies, when you've finished having a wee, maybe just take a little bit of time, a few seconds to rest, breathe, and just rock forwards on the toilet. And that can sometimes help get the last bits of urine out. The exercises that we're going to do will help us to control our bladder and our bowels. It will help us to stop letting urine go when we don't want it to. But if we have a more effective pelvic floor, if your pelvic floor's fitter, then actually it can help us to wee effectively. It can help us to poo. So pelvic floor exercises have many different aims and have many different benefits. And we'll talk about those shortly.